it's Sarah here with my belated Tome Topple wrap-up. I've been suffering from like all kinds of problems and migraines and before effects and after effects for the past 3 days, and so have not filmed. So today you will finally get my wrap-up. And I read a few other things that weren't part of Tome Topple. I'm also going to wrap those up because let's just do this. But first, for Tome Topple, I read 2 tomes. It is a good thing. I am very excited and very happy. The first book that I finished was Gemina, which is the second book in the Illuminae Chronicles. The third book is not coming out until next year, which just may kill me, or I will forget what happened and then have to reread these first 2 books. I basically had to read Illuminae again before I started this one too, because I could not remember anything. Gemina takes place at the same time that Illuminae does, and it is set aboard the space station Heimdall, which is where the Illuminae crew is going to, and the events of what are happening there. We have 2 new protagonists and, you know, love interests as well going on here, and it is also written in the same format as the previous on all kinds of, you know, fun way to read, just different from the normal book, which is kind of cool. I am going to be in the minority here. I enjoyed this one more than Illuminae. I think Illuminae suffered from the hype monster for me, and I was expecting some sort of like grand thing, when in reality I felt like I was reading something that I'd read before, and it was like I just had so many wall-e moments during that book. This one I liked more and I think part of it is because Hannah and Nick are just so unlikable, and that was almost fun to me. So Hannah is the space station commander's daughter, and she is like this princess, but she's not really a princess. He thinks she's a princess, but she's really not as good as he thinks, and she buys drugs and uses drugs, and Nick is a drug dealer and part of like some sort of mafia group almost. So, you know, neither of them are very great characters, and yet they are, and I kind of liked that. I want everyone to plug their ears if they don't want like a potential maybe spoiler. Illuminae reminded me of Wall-E, and this one reminded me of Alien or something. Like there were elements of that in there, and I kind of liked that better. Like, this one was kind of cool. So overall, I really liked this one, and I am really looking forward to the last book. I think it's going to be Obsidio. Then I picked up Wildwood by Colin Melody and illustration by Carson Ellis. And this book confused me. Not in the form of plot, because that was fine. But the fact that this is considered a middle grade book, and it was written with the language of a middle grade book, but it is like 545 pages, and it is like plagued by tome problems. One of which was it was slow. So I cannot imagine young people voluntarily reading this book, except for like the most dedicated readers, which is a shame because it was a good story. When you read the blurb on Goodreads, it talks about it and compares it to the Chronicles of Narnia, and I can see that because there's lots of Wildwood is populated by a lot of creatures who talk, and it's like this mystical place that not everyone can go. I also got like just the smidgen at the beginning of a labyrinth feel, because right at the beginning, Prue's brother gets stolen by a murder of crows and taken to Wildwood. And she goes to Wildwood, obviously, to find him. So it's like just a little bit of a like a labyrinthy feel, and And I can see the Chronicles of Narnia too, especially the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. Definite kind of following with that. It was very, very slow, but the story was fun and cute. So it's kind of, that's why I'm confused. I don't really know how to rate this, because as a middle grade book, it was just like, no. But the story really, and the story wasn't 100% original, because I really did definitely feel some of these things. Like, none of the twists and turns were very surprising to me. So I'm not really sure about this one. I am not continuing with the series as of right yet. I suffered during Tome Topple a lot. Sometimes big books just do not work for me. Wildwood being one of those. When they're just that slow, sometimes I suffer from not getting reading done and not completing things, and not feeling like I'm getting anywhere. And I did suffer with that one. Gemini did not have that problem. I felt like it was like so action-packed it went right through, but I suffered a bit through Wildwood. And I also suffered a bit because I pushed myself and finished A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, which is another wordy, 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 wordy book. Considering this is not a tome and it is not over 500 pages in like any edition I could find on Goodreads, this reads like it's like 900 pages or something. And I suffered while reading this book since February. And so I really struggled to rate this one as well, because part of the reason I didn't like it is because I wasn't reading it. And I missed so much of the plot because of that. This is set into 3 parts. The first part is kind of like setting the scene, and I thought that went pretty smoothly. Like, I was like, okay, this is cool, da 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 da. But by the end of it, the wordiness was coming in. Yeah, the first part was actually funny. There were parts that I was laughing at, and I was like, oh, this is a tale of contrasts. I was all feeling really great about myself. Part 2, I don't know what happened in part 2, okay? I was listening it, trying to read it, and I just could not figure it out. Just wading through all of the words and some of the same things over and over and over again. I couldn't get it. Then part 3 happened, and I was like, crap, I wish I remembered what happened in part 2 and could understand, because by the end of this book, I'm like, this book is fantastic. What in the world? You know, it was heartbreaking. It was awful. If I had paid attention through this, I would have cried tears, okay? Seriously, if there weren't so many words and he had gotten to the point, I would have sobbed. Because this book, seriously, this book could be fantastic. And some of it is my problem, because, again, it took me so long to read it. And some of it is that, you know, there are just a lot of words for the modern day reader to read. So I struggle to rate this, and I still don't know how to rate this book. So if you go on Goodreads and see what I rated it, take that with a grain of salt, because it might not stay that way. That being said, no one has to come to my house and beat me. Yay! So I read I See London, I See France, and this was a really good book that I thoroughly enjoyed. And it centers around a girl and her best friend from high school. This is actually set after their freshman year of college, and they're in separate schools in different countries, believe it or not, and have still maintained their friendship to a certain degree, and have decided to take the trip to Europe that they always wanted to take when they were younger. And there are complications with this, and it is contemporary romance and road trip sort of deal. A few things that I want to say about this book: it is definitely more new adult than young adult. It is in the young adult section, and it looks very cutesy in the cover. And if I can figure out my new editing software, I will put a book cover up here. If not, sorry. There are some pretty descriptive scenes of the sex shops in Amsterdam, as well as other things. Like, it's pretty graphic for a young adult book, especially considering the cover would be one that maybe a 13-year-old would pick up. And maybe I'm a prude, but Yeah, I'm not sure I'd want my daughter reading this book quite yet. But what I really did like about it is that it shows a friendship that was maintained after high school. A lot of books talk about it as being the end and you're never going to see your friends again, and maybe we will, maybe we won't, la-di-da. And these two managed to stay friends through their first year of college and will likely stay friends after this trip. So I liked that, and I enjoyed this book. Also, as you might know, I've been on a quest to finish a few certain series that I have on the go. One of them is the Wyndham series, which is a historical romance series by Grace Burrows. And I picked up a novella that I owned, Morgan and Archer. Looks like this. And this was cute. There wasn't anything really to write home about it other than I read it out of order. I still have a couple books that I own that I didn't realize were before this one. So, oops, I got spoiled for everyone's ending during this book. But, oh well, right? What can one do? So that is the first half of August. So far, I am currently reading 2 quickie books kind of deals. One's a contemporary romance and one is a cozy mystery. I had to start a couple things on digital form because when I go to New York City, I wasn't going to be carrying a 500-page book with me, just because, no. I'm sorry, but no. So I started those 2 and I'm currently in the middle of them, and then I do plan to still pick up A Man Called Ove next. And if I finish that by the end of the month, I will be a happy, happy, happy girl. So I will talk to you later.